But I'm just saying, man, it's like an open air insane asylum. You can see some of the craziest stuff I've seen. And I'm just touching on just a little bit, man. I've seen some stuff there that it was just like, man, this is crazy, Coming from small town Alabama to seeing stuff like this, I'm like, man, this is it was like overwhelming at times. But just it's a spirit to it, you know what I'm saying? There's a way of it, and that's what I mean by it. There's a way of homelessness. There's just observing this thing, just seeing how there's rules to it. There's hierarchy. There's interactions between the homeless and the people that are not homeless. All these different things that take place, There's a spirit of arrogance in some people that are not homeless. That haughty spirit looking down on people, That's a part of it. There's the insanity that works on the people that are homeless. Okay? Also, you have just the getting deeper into it, the demonic that work on those people's minds, that work on their finances in different ways. There's a lot of witchcraft in Atlanta. You never know how somebody might end up in that situation that they're in. And I'm sure it applies to many other big cities, medium-sized cities in my country, around the world, where we engage our fellow man and woman. And so, again, I just want you guys to, when you're engaging the people, don't turn your eyes from them. Almsgiving is right up there with health, and God blessing us with health and seeing after us. He links so much of this with helping the people that don't have. This is a serious thing. That's why I wanted to speak about it today. So next time you see a homeless person, don't turn your face from them. Just acknowledge them. Nod. I see you. Many times that's all they want. And if you have something to give and you can give with a cheerful heart, then give. If you can't give with a cheerful heart, don't worry about it. Just keep it moving to the next time. Welcome back to the channel, The Spirits of Atlanta. This episode is going to focus on homelessness. Homelessness is a big issue in the city of Atlanta. And before I moved to Atlanta, coming from small town Alabama, I was just somewhat slightly familiar with homelessness. I moved from the largest city in Alabama, Huntsville, and I didn't see a lot of homelessness, nothing like the magnitude that I would encounter in Atlanta. But right before I moved from Huntsville to Atlanta, I got a little bit of foreshadowing. There was this white lady. She was standing in front of the store, the convenience store. She was standing in front of the door, and her body was covered in sores. I had never seen anything like that. And it shocked me as I approached the door of the convenience store to pay for my gas. It shocked me. And she was, we made eye contact, and that's all I remember was just looking at her body, and it was just covered. She was just covered in head to toe with sores. It blew me away. I was like, what? I'm thinking she needs to be in a hospital. She doesn't need to be out here on the street. Little did I know that would just be little foreshadowing of what I would encounter when I moved about 3 hours away by interstate. So before I actually moved to Atlanta, I took a little tour, reconnaissance survey of the area, the lands. I was with a lady friend. We were walking around the city. The parts that I could easily access as a tourist, even though I had been traveling to Atlanta for some time. I had a uncle that lived off of Holmes exit right after you pass the 285 exchange as you're going west on I-20. But besides his neighborhood, I didn't really know much about the city. So I decided to stay downtown. And me and my friend, we took the train, the tram, and we explored some of the areas. At this one point, we got out right downtown area, not far from the underground, and there was a park. And I saw a lot of people at the park, and it looked like they were just hanging out, having a good time. So I decided to approach the group. And as we got closer to the group, and we were pretty much going towards the midst of this group, I realized that it was not just people hanging out at the park. This was a massive gathering of homeless people. And right around that time, a stench hit me. And there was this uncleanness, the spirit, the unclean spirit. For those that understand things like discernment, is not just a issue of people being smelly. It's a little bit deeper than that. So once I realized what was going on, and it was kind of weird because they were looking at me like, what are you doing here? And so right around that time, I'm like, you know what? We need to leave. So I start to proceed to cross the street. We get across the street. And now we're going to make our way back up, but we're just going to be on the opposite side of the street as the park. And I remember looking, there was a guy, he was sitting on the curb, on the sidewalk. His back was against a lamp post. He had a blanket, like from a hospital. He was wrapped in a blanket. And he moved the blanket in a way that you could see underneath the blanket. And I could see this guy was completely naked. He was completely naked up under this blanket. And I was like, man, this is serious. Who knows? This guy might have just been released from a hospital, might just been released from a jail or something. And this is all he has. And I'm right in the middle of this. This was just a little foreshadowing before I moved doing my reconnaissance. Later on in that same recon trip, me and my friend, we're walking down the sidewalk trying to find out some place to get some food later in the evening. And a homeless young man approaches us. And he asked for something. So my friend immediately starts digging into her purse. Now there's about 2 or 3 other guys that are watching this whole thing take place. Now we're facing them. I look to her to see her digging into her purse. Then I look towards them. When she starts to dig in her purse, I notice the 2 guys behind this young man, their eyes light up. I'm thinking, this is not good. My friend was so eager to help. And I understand that was something I cherished about her. So I said to myself, you know what? I don't like the way this is looking. So what I decided to do was tell her, Instead of digging into your purse and handing this person something, you just give me what it is that you want to give, and I will hand it off. Okay? So what that does is it establishes some boundaries. There's a boundary that is established between her and these guys. Now, I noticed the look on this young man's face as I took the money from her and I handed it to him. He understood that. He caught on immediately. So did the two guys that were older behind him. They understood it was unspoken. It's like body language on another level. There's an unspoken rule that, hey, this is something that it's not just gonna be we're not marks. I'm just looking out for this young woman that wants to help this young man. So I'll say, just to start off early on in this conversation, guys, if you're not used to this type of thing and you're with your lady friend, look out for her in that way. You create the boundary. You stand in the gap between her and the people that she wants to help. She has good intentions. You know her. You're traveling with her. You're moving with her. You don't know these guys. So be a covering in a sense. Now, once I moved there and I got to understand more about the homelessness situation, I came to a point where not only just driving around the city, cruising through the city, walking around, interacting with people, talking with people. One thing that I would notice is as I would sit and people watch, I would see how as people would approach the homeless, they would turn their face. That's sort of the unspoken language to let them know that you don't want to be bothered. You turn your face from them. On looking at scripture and reflecting, I saw in scripture how it talks about don't turn your face from the people that are downtrodden. Oftentimes, actually, what I found was that it's not about asking or begging for money. Most times, the people, they just want to be acknowledged as people. I see you. Yeah, you're in a downtrodden situation. You're in a weak or vulnerable situation. But I see you. I see your humanity. Once I understood that dynamic, I found that when I would just make eye contact with the people, just nod, simple things, simple gesture, most of the time, like 80% of the time, they would not ask me for anything. Now, that's not to say that everything was just smooth. There was just one time, again, with this same lady friend. At this point, I had moved to the city. We were having some food at this area called 5 Points. So we're having our meal, we're having a couple of drinks, just relaxing. And I noticed this homeless guy. He enters the area of the restaurant. It's a black guy. Now, me and my friend, we're the only other black people there. All the other people, white people, just hanging out. He goes from table to table, And I notice as he's moving from table to table, there's a general sense of, for one table, there's a nod, there's a look like no, and he moves on. There's not interaction. It's just a very brief interaction, I would say. Goes from table to table to table, and finally he gets to my table. Now, when he gets to my table, he does something different. He approaches my friend. As he's coming closer, I'm looking at the guy. I'm like, no, we ain't got nothing, man. Like, no. He keeps coming. So he's doing something different now. He approaches her. She's sitting closest to him. I'm watching him the whole time, so her back is sort of to him. As he approaches, she turns because she can see me looking at him. And he asks if she has anything to give. Now, I'm at this point saying, no, bro, we're good. He just totally ignores me. He's intent on asking her. So then he looks at me after that. No, I got nothing for you. At this point, I'm starting to get upset. So the waitress comes out. She's familiar with this guy. So apparently this is his area to beg around. And she approaches him. She says, leave these people alone. At this point, he just yells out, screams out. And she's like, stop it. Like, she's familiar with this guy and how he behaves. So he has this mini tirade there right in front of my table. And eventually he walks away. Now, this rubs me the wrong way because he understood quite clearly. He did understand that this boundary, he crossed boundary. And I'm sitting there thinking about this and I'm trying to just let it go. I'm like, man, this is a homeless guy, downtrodden, so on and so forth. Now, there's a sidewalk that is the boundary between this restaurant and the street and other places. So I see the guy coming down the sidewalk. This time he's not in the space of the restaurant. He's walking down the sidewalk towards me, going the same route generally that he took that when he was begging, but this time instead of inside the space of the restaurant, he's outside the space of the restaurant. And he's traveling around the edge of the restaurant on the sidewalk. Now, my table just happens to be right near the sidewalk. And when the guy starts up down the sidewalk, immediately I'm aware of his presence as he's getting closer. And as he gets close, I look to him and he has this smirk on his face. Like, yeah. What you gonna do? What? You talk, man, listen. He pushed my button. He knew what he was doing. Like as a man, like you don't do stuff like that. You sit there chilling with your woman, some dude comes up, he already disrespect you by not listening to you saying, hey man, we don't have nothing for you. You're gonna sit up there and ask his woman for some money. Then you're gonna ask him. Then when you get rejected, you're gonna yell out and scream, just making a scene right there. Then there's that racial component. of all the people, we're black, he's black, he gonna make the scene with us. Like we owe him something. You know what? He kept walking. But that really, I mean, it made me upset. I'm just like, this dude, like, you know, I wasn't used to people doing stuff like that. I mean, how do you come from this type of thing never happening to now you're in this situation and you got me, I got something to lose. I can't just go around provoking people. I actually have something to lose in my life. This dude, he's got nothing to lose. Just thinking about that, you know, and how upset it made me, and just reflecting on that, understand that it's not all a situation of just feeling bad for people per se. There's some people out there that are in this situation that are really, they good people. They don't want trouble. They're in this situation where they're reduced to begging. Then there's others out there that it's not about feeling sorry for them. There's something else at play with them. And just having that, developing that discernment was something that was very, very enlightening, to say the least. At other times, you know, I had gotten to the point where just interacting with the homeless, that was the situation that I just relayed to you. There was one other situation that I had that was similar, but all my time, just those two. Again, that's like, so I would say like 99.9 something percent of my engagement with the homeless in Atlanta, it was not like that. It was not agitative in that sense. The only other time that was slightly agitative, there was this one lady. So I stopped at a red light on Boulevard, a major street that runs through downtown. And the lady is approaching the sidewalk just as I'm approaching the red light. And she asked if I have anything that I could spare her. I'm like, no, you know, not really want to be bothered at the time. And then she says this, she says something about she's got a baby. Her baby is she just needs to get back home to her baby. And I think about it for a second, and I'm like, I think she's BSing me. But just to be on the safe side, I say, you know what? I'm gonna just give her a book that I have in my wallet. I'm gonna just give it to her. So I give it to her. She goes away. I noticed she didn't say thank you, which was something that kind of stuck with me. I was like, okay. So later on, there's a particular gas station on Boulevard and the intersection of Boulevard and Highway 78 runs through the city. There's a gas station there where homeless people congregate and they beg. And at this particular time, it was the place where the female homeless would beg. You didn't see men so much begging there. There would mostly be females begging. Now, this same female was there with another one. Now, there was two different tactics that I saw. One, her tactic was very aggressive. When she would see you, she would immediately hone in, hey. and she would start to beg, like aggressively. So I see her, I recognize her, I ignore her, I go into the store, I get what I'm gonna get, and I come out, and I notice the other female, she's sitting in front of a gas pump, and she's just sitting there kind of like with like a down look on her face. She didn't say a word. It was all body language with her. And just to see the juxtaposition of the two, it was just this one. It was the craziest thing. It was like, on one hand you got this woman that is like humble. Then on the other hand you got a woman that's arrogant. So you think, like, which one do you think is gonna get more people to give? It's gonna be the humble. So I give some money to the lady that was humble. The woman that was arrogant that I had given to in the past, you know, she brings up some kids again. I don't know whether she got kids or not, but this time I'm not hearing it. And I'm just thinking about, like, these dynamics that take place. I don't know if if they had a team or not, but just to think about it, it's like, man, these levels of social interaction that you deal with when engaging with the homeless population in the big city, it's just really like, it just throws you for a loop sometimes. It could be overwhelming. There will be times that they say, like, when I first moved to Atlanta, I was staying at an Airbnb while I was just finding places. I was like living at the Airbnb, and I go out every day when I had time while working remotely, and just view apartments, places to stay, right? Now the guy that was the host, he told me, he was like, you know, at dark, we don't go to the convenience stores. And I could kind of see what he was saying, because there'll be a lot of theft at night. There'll be murders at night at these convenience stores. It's just like the violence, the demonic just kind of hovered around these places, a lot of these places. You don't stop, general rule, you don't stop unless there's a police presence right there on the spot. You see those blue lights and you know it's good. If not, just keep it moving. And so that was one of the things. It was like this one night I really wanted to get something. I'm living downtown at the time. Just a late night urge. I wanted to go grab something from the convenience store. So I pull up. There's a gang of young dudes, middle-aged dudes. I say about like maybe 10 max, dispersed different areas around the front. So it's like, as I'm going into the store, they're begging, asking. I get what I'm gonna get. I come out, they're begging, asking. As I leave the store, I'm just like, man, this is crazy. Like, it's like, it's like, on one hand, I feel sorry for them. On the other hand, it's like, really, you know, I'm sure I was in dangerous type of situations many times, but God kept me, you know. Other experiences, you know, at some point I just said, you know what, one thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go to the ATM, because I'm thinking about this thing deeply, because there was a time where I was staying in my car, you know, sleeping in my car. I understand, you know, I've never been like out in the rough where I'm just, as they would say in the UK, like, you know, I'm not sleeping on the street. I'm not just in that type of situation. But I know what it's like to not have a place to go. And I didn't, at the time when I was going through that situation, I was actually working. So it wasn't like I just was needing to ask somebody for something, but like I can relate in a way, and just to put myself in their shoes, to empathize, I would think, man, what type of situation I would need to be in to ask somebody, especially like a older guy asking a younger man for something. Like, man. And so that's the way I approached it. And then on top of that, I'm looking at scripture and I'm seeing over and over again in the wisdom literature, you know, the Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Wisdom of Solomon, Wisdom of Sirach. I'm seeing how alms giving just comes up over and over again, and how important it is to look out for those that don't have, and to put oneself in their shoes and to think about, man, if I was in that situation, I would really want somebody to help me. So what I started to do, I just go to the ATM, get a 20, get it in ones, or get a 20, go to, when I go to the bank, just get it broken down into ones, something like that, so that I would have some ones to give to the people. And so that's one of the things that I would do. And from time to time, I would just set it in my heart. You know, I think about how, you know, we give and we're cheerful givers. So it's like that. Look, if I'm distressed or feeling like just annoyed or something like that, I'm not giving. When I give, I want to give with a cheerful heart, or I'm just not going to give. So this one time, just following that, just sticking to that, there was some interesting things that happened. So there's just one time when I'm walking towards the Ponce City Market, and there was a guy, and as I approached, I made eye contact with him again. Like I said earlier, I'm not looking away when I see people that don't look like they're not as fortunate as I am. Not so quick to just look away from them. So I look at him, I make eye contact. That's part of also being aware of my surroundings. Not just staring at my phone. If you get close to me in the street, I'm looking at you in your eye. But I want to see you. What's in your spirit? That's another thing about discernment. You actually see these things, actually, if you just pay attention. So I look at this guy in his eyes, and he says to me, you know, brother, can you help me? Can you help me with anything you can spare? And I stop and I say, okay, all right. Yeah, what's going on, man? Because it's not just about just going quickly and boom. There's a story. You know, a lot of the people, they have a story behind why they're asking. And so this guy, he almost starts crying, like he starts to shake a little bit. I could see this in his body language. I could see this like tremble. And he says, you know, I just got released from jail. I'm trying to find a job. I'm getting rejected everywhere I go because I got this criminal record. And I just need something so that I can go through the night, get through the night. And like it's like tears welling up in this guy's eye, man. I'm like, man, look, just take in my own heart, I decided I'm not going to give this man a few ones. I'm going to just give him the whole 20. So that's what I did. Now, I'm not saying this to brag, man. Listen, that's not the point. What I'm doing is I'm just saying for the people that if you have a tendency to turn away from the people, or if you have been in a situation, an unfortunate situation, and you got out of that situation, listen, wisdom literature in the scripture tells us when we're doing good, when everything's going good, think about the times when things weren't going good. You know, and that's what the people in these situations, they help us to do. If we're receptive to that, they help us to think about those times. You know, when that brother told me that he was having trouble getting a job, I thought about when I was having trouble getting a job and I did not have a criminal record. Okay? No criminal record ever, and I'm still having trouble getting a job. Got all the qualifications, it don't matter. Doors just being closed in my face. People reached out and they helped me through those times, okay? With vehicles, had two separate friends that helped me with vehicles at the time. Those vehicles, what I slept in some nights, okay? So that's just what I'm saying. Like, that is the type of thing that, and when we're in a situation, we need. And also, we reap what we sow. More than sitting up here bragging, man, listen. I'm thinking about the message, the story in the scripture where there was a guy that he was in a government type of position. And he had to go out and he had to get taxes from people and get things like that. And he would cut corners so they didn't have to pay so much. Because what was he doing? He was thinking about the future. Hey, man, I might fall on hard times. And sure enough, he did fall on hard times. And when he did, he was able to go to those same people and say, hey, I cut you a break. Can you please look out for me? I need your help now. That's what I was thinking about. You know, I'm thinking about, hey, if I ever fall on hard times again, I need to build up some goodness to reap that goodness that I sowed, that generosity. There was another situation. So right outside Ponce City Market, there is a Kroger. So at the Kroger at night, when the Kroger closed down, you see a group, guys mostly. Very rarely you'll see a woman. If you do see a woman, she's with a man. So you'll see these guys, they start to congregate in the evening time. It's a very laid back group. It's not rowdy. There's like an understanding in the streets, you know. Certain places, they don't allow for rowdiness to be in their area because it goes against what they're doing. In this particular area, they didn't beg and just panhandle like that. They would sit amongst the other people that lived there in the community and worked there. And they would sit, and other people in the community would sit nearby and have their drinks, have their food, and they'd move on. There was this one particular guy that I met, and I befriended him. Now, when I first met this guy, I just thought he was disabled by the way that he moved. I could tell that he was obviously, he had a physical disability. And so I would speak to him And I found that with time, it didn't take long at all. Guy's pretty bright, and we speak about politics. He was like a hardcore Democrat. So, I let him talk his talk. I'm independent, so I just like to hear sometimes the hardcore Republicans, the hardcore Democrats, let them speak about how they feel. And I think about how much of what they say is mirroring what's on like mainstream media, MSNBC, Fox News, CNN, so on and so forth. So while they're repeating to me those talking points, I'm listening and I nod and I throw out something to rebuff them, and it get them a little riled up, and it keeps the conversation going. It's all in a lighthearted sense. I'm not getting too serious about any of that. If you know how I feel about politics, and the two teams, not going hard for either one of them. But that was something that I was able to connect with him about, and we would have really somewhat deep conversations about things, And this would happen pretty much every time we meet. We either talk about sports or politics. We want to keep it light. We talk about sports. We want to get a little deeper. We talk about politics. Now, there was several weeks, amounting to a couple months, that passed by. And so this Kroger that I'm talking about is between Pond City Market and this Kroger is separated by the belt line. It's called the belt line. It's this walking trail. You can ride your bike, you can skateboard, walk. No vehicles, no cars allowed. And so I would ride my bike on the belt line in the evening, especially after work, and sometimes pretty late. And there's this one night I'm riding. It's like 10:30, 11 o'clock. I get out on the belt line, and I start around the area of the Kroger. That's where I would start my ride, and I look over onto the deck. There's a large deck there that they have, and I saw him. He was settling in for the night, I'm like, man, this guy is homeless. I didn't know. I had no clue this guy was homeless. He never asked me for a dime. He never asked me for a dime the whole time I knew him, which was about a year. He never asked me for a single dime. After I seen him that night at the Kroger, I thought to myself, like, okay, the next time I see him, I'm just going to put the 20 in my hand, shake his hand, boom, pass it off like that, Hey, man, if you need something, just get it, boom, no problem. And so that's what I did. He was thankful. Just thinking about that, man, it's like not all homeless people even will ask you. It goes back to that, just affirming the humanity, just speaking to somebody, talking about things, light things, heavy things. They're people too. They have thoughts. They have hobbies. They have things they're passionate about. They're understanding about things. Educated people. Some of them. It's not just at the bottom, just everything about them just bottom. It's not like that. That's what I had to learn. All this thing that I'm telling you guys, that's what I had to learn. You know, being in a situation like that and then seeing it from another side. You know, all these things coming together, all of these things kind of coalescing. There was other times when I would see people that were in that stereotypical kind of mode. There was this one situation. So there's this lady that we're in the Old Fourth Ward, near the southern end of Old Fourth Ward on Edgewood. And there's this lady. Again, we get into the racialization of these things. Now, much of Atlanta, the inner city aspect, is being gentrified. So I'm sitting there and I'm at this corner and I'm watching this lady as I'm waiting on the light to change, and I'm seeing her. She's doing a little dance. The people that are closest to her on the corner, as they're waiting to make their turn, they pass her some money. And she'll do her little dance, and then they'll drive off. Now I'm seeing the racialization of this black lady sitting here or standing there looking a mess. And I'm seeing these white people in their vehicles. They're a part of the group that's gentrifying, you know. They got the new German vehicles. You know, the whole stereotype is right there taking place, black and white. So they're passing her the buck. They watch her dance. They laugh and drive off. There's a store that I'm going to visit near where she's doing her thing. I pull into the parking lot. I go get what I'm going to get at the store, come back. Now I got to get out of the parking lot. That's where she is. Okay? So I pull up now. Now I'm the one that's beside her. So I turn to my left. I see her out of my driver's side window. She looks at me. She starts to do her little dance. And now I'm upset. I'm angry. And I tell her, you know these white people just making a fool out of you, right? You know that they give you this little money and they see you dance and you doing this. You know how you look. You know how, and I just kind of snapped, man. You know, I think about sometime today, was that even the right thing? I didn't cuss her out. I didn't do nothing like that, but it was just like, this is like, don't you see they clowning you? They don't care about you. They're not looking out for you. They're making fun of you. They're mocking you in your addiction. Because it was as clear as day, that's what it was. They mocking you on your addiction. They don't care if you get better or not. And she stopped and she held her head down, man. She didn't get angry with me. She didn't say nothing to me. She just held her head down. And she just looked so down. And I was just like, man, see, I'm thinking to myself, like, man, she was probably having a good day till I pulled up, you know? But it's things like that, you know, you see the homeless, and there's that racialized dynamic, and it's just like, man, come on, this is a bad look. Like, you ain't gotta go out like this. Man. Like, who am I? Who am I to tell her that? But at the same time, I'm like looking at her like, man, if that was my auntie, if that was my cousin, I would say the same thing to her. Don't you sit up here Don't you see what's going on? Don't nobody care about you. They'll laugh if you were to sit up here and dance and fall out and die. They wouldn't even care. Man. So there's things like that. There's highs and the lows of it. You know, downtown in the city, it's like a ghost town after work hours, downtown Atlanta. After work hours, it's really not a whole lot going on in the core of the city, right? So this one time I go down to this is restaurant that I hear about. I want to check it out. So I'm like, okay, after work I'm gonna go down there, check it out. Hopefully there won't be a big crowd or anything like that. Sure enough, it was like nobody in that joint. But as I park, I'm like, you know how the city parking is, they tax you. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna park, and I don't want to pay. So I'm just gonna park on the sidewalk or on the curb here. And I'm gonna walk this half a block, order my food, and come back quickly because I don't want to get ticketed. And I'm waiting on my food to get done after I make my order. I come back to my car and I'm sitting there in my car and I'm watching. And I'm seeing the homeless people and they move. I'm watching the movement. I'm seeing guys go this way, guys go that way. I see a guy, he leaves something there near the intersection. There's this little area where you could place items. And he leaves his stuff there, and I notice nobody messes with it. There's other people in the area, so I'm looking at the dynamics. So as I'm looking, I see this lady. She catches my eye across the street. She catches my eye, and then as soon as she catches my eye, she looks away. So I'm like, okay, I see her, So I go get my food. I come back as I approach my car. Now she's crossed the street in the meantime. She's passed by my car. So as I'm approaching my car, I look and I see her. And she makes this little sound, like this little laughing sound, like and then she like does a ballerina pirouette, you know what I'm saying? Like she does this little ballerina spin. Then she like just disappears out between the cars, you know what I'm saying? Like she just kind of run away. It was like a little child, you know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, man, it's like I'm telling you, man, downtown Atlanta, it's like an open air insane asylum. It really is. There's been other times in my life when I was around the mentally disturbed, you could say the insane. So I know it when I see it. It doesn't take a ton of discernment to see this. In some cases, it's very apparent, but it's just like that. It's kind of like downtown is a safe space, quote unquote, for them. Since there are not any institutions for them to go to, I suppose that's the best that society has to offer them. There are nonprofits in the area that help them. I've noticed that in the morning time, you can see them lined up outside some places to get food. So I know that there are institutions or nonprofits and things that help the people, to help the homeless in the downtown area. But I'm just saying, man, it's like an open air insane asylum. You can see some of the craziest stuff I've seen. And I'm just touching on just a little bit, man. I've seen some stuff there that it was just like, man, this is crazy, Coming from small town Alabama to seeing stuff like this, I'm like, man, this is, it was like overwhelming. at times, But just it's a spirit to it, you know what I'm saying? There's a way of it, and that's what I mean by it. There's a way of homelessness. There's, just observing this thing, just seeing how there's rules to it. There's hierarchy. There's interactions between the homeless and the people that are not homeless. All these different things that take place, There's a spirit of arrogance in some people that are not homeless. That haughty spirit looking down on people, That's a part of it. There's the insanity that works on the people that are homeless. Okay? Also, you have just the getting deeper into it, the demonic that work on those people's minds, that work on their finances in different ways. There's a lot of witchcraft in Atlanta. You never know how somebody might end up in that situation that they're in. So these things, just thinking about this. Also, man, just so many things come to my mind. It's like, this is one time I'm on Edgewood. I come out this little place. Had some food. It's like during the pandemic, some of the places that stay open the longest, open the latest, you can find on Edgewood. So it's like 2:00 in the morning. I want to get something to eat. A lot of places closed down. I got to go on Edgewood. Go on Edgewood. Have a good time, man. Have a couple drinks. Have some food. Come out. I see the homeless people, right? They congregate. They're in the area. This one lady, she asked me for $1. And before I given her the $1, actually, there was a guy, an older guy. He was like trying to size me up, see if I was a little bit too tipsy or not, And I saw that, and I peeped that. And so I'm seeing how his movements towards me was somewhat aggressive. I took this particular stance, and I saw a cousin of mine that was in the streets take. And I did that. It was just a way of standing. I did that, and the guy actually backed up when I did that. So I was like, what's up with that? But anyway, there was a lady nearby, and she asked me for $1, and so I gave her $1, right? And so she says, look at the skyline of Atlanta. If you know Atlanta, it's like a narrow downtown area, the core downtown, and it's just narrow and long, and it goes up from the Atlanta to the Buckhead area. And so you see these skyscrapers just sporadically in groups, little clumps along this skyline, right? So she points out to me that it's like a chessboard, and she pointed out the queen and the king and the rook, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, you know what? I think you're on to something there. So from then on, whenever I would see the skyline, I would think about that chessboard, and I would think about the game, the social game that's being played between the haves and the have-nots. It gets pretty deep when you think about it. So, that's what I want to leave you guys with here today. It's been kind of long conversation. It's a lot to think about in this area. The spirits of Atlanta. There's more spirits that I'm going to speak about, and this is just one that really impacted me. Spending time there, living in the city, and just seeing how things work in the city. And I'm sure it applies to many other big cities, medium-sized cities in my country, around the world, where we engage our fellow man and woman. And so, again, I just want you guys to, when you're engaging the people, don't turn your eyes from them. almsgiving. Almsgiving is right up there with health, and God blessing us with health and seeing after us. You know, he links so much of this with helping the people that don't have. This is a serious thing. That's why I wanted to speak about it today. So next time you see a homeless person, don't turn your face from them. Just acknowledge them. Nah, I see you. Many times that's all they want. And if you have something to give and you can give with a cheerful heart, then give. If you can't give with a cheerful heart, don't worry about it. Just keep it moving till the next time. All right? So this is the battle done. Peace.